This time on the Iron Empire, we talk about 10 reasons why classic cars look like shit. So today we are heading up to the Riverland in the Fairlane. We've got to do the old switcheroo. We've got to drop this off and then pick up the Mustang, bring it back for a wedding next weekend. I was thinking about some of the little things I want to do on the Mustang in the near future. And that got me thinking about all the shit that people do on classic cars that absolutely kill it. And I thought, I'll jump on here, stir the pot a little bit, let you know my thoughts about what I think are the do's and do nots on classic cars. So let's get there because there's a little bit noisy in the car. I haven't got my microphone on me today. Let's pull up and start talking classic car stuff. Okay, so let's talk interiors. Now, this was a big thing back in the day with customs and stuff, and I get the custom thing, but a lot of the time people would put the interior of the motor that they put in their car, they might put like a Commodore 6-cylinder in their Kingswood or something, and then retrofit the Commodore interior and dash and all this stuff, and it looks terrible. Now, a lot of people nowadays aren't doing that sort of level. Well, at least I hope not. People obviously at one point thought it was tasteful, but let's be honest, anything like that kind of isn't. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible to do tasteful mods and upgrades to a classic interior, but to try and get that tasteful balance is really tricky. I mean, honestly, like a Mustang, for example, these were a pretty basic car, but even still, just the styling and the detail was just, I don't know, it had a lot more character. And once again, this is obviously a personal preference, but retrofitting late model parts into an old school car very rarely works, especially high back seats. That's one I didn't even have on my list. High back seats in a low back seat car, no good. Okay, now this list is not in order of importance except for this one, ride height. That is number one on the list and always has been, always will be the most important thing when it comes to styling of a car. No, it doesn't matter what make, model, color, shape, condition. As long as the ride height is correct, your car is always gonna look better. But of course, this does come with one very small exclusion: four-wheel drives and four-wheel drive type vehicles like an F100 or like a Silverado or something like that. The full-size pickup trucks, you can get away with being a ride height or even jacked up higher, can sometimes look good with the right fitment of wheels and everything. But generally speaking, passenger vehicles like this, low is always better. Hands down, nothing more to be said. Then after that, we got wheels. Now, late model and big wheels on an old car will often kill it. Now, these are actually a late model replica of an old wheel, which is a Magnum 500. They would have been a pressed steel wheel, which was chromed. They obviously always rusted. Someone has reproduced these in aluminium, and I actually love the look. At a glance, you'd never know this is an alloy wheel. This is my exclusion to the point. You also can get away with sometimes the bigger steel wheels or a modern take on an older wheel in a bit of a different diameter, but it can be pulled off. But generally speaking, a more classic wheel will always suit a classic car. Now, the good news is if you're on a budget, you can dress up your wheels. Just a coat of paint and a set of red walls or white walls, whatever suits the period of car, in my opinion, will always look better than late model Larry wheels that just are not the part. This thing come on some 17s and it was jacked up, and all I done was lower it and put these wheels on it, and it is a completely different car. Okay, so before I forget, for those who are interested in Street Machine Drag Challenge, which is coming up really soon, next weekend. So it's November the 1st. It's actually coming through our little town. And so that's our place. Right here, 3 doors down, is the Mid-Murray Classic Car Gallery. Now, I've done a video on this place on the channel, so you can scroll back a few months and you'll see me do a walk around this place. It's really, really cool. Anyone that's on Drag Challenge that knows the channel, you will be stopping right here for one of your checkpoints. And yeah, our little place is right there. So stop on, have a look. And if you are from the Riverland and want to get out and support that, support the event, come down, and yeah, there'll be a bunch of tough drag cars coming through this town, and it's going to be freaking awesome. So yeah, the Mid-Murray Car Gallery is right here. Once again, you'll see that video on the channel. And unfortunately, we won't be here for it. We would have loved to have pulled the car out the front and caught up with everyone that's coming through and seen all the tough drag cars coming through. It's going to be a really awesome day. It's from 3 onwards, I think. The races will basically be finishing up dragging at Mildura, passing their time slips, and then drive through to their checkpoints, this being one of them, and then end up at the dragway at the bend. So we'll be there on a Sunday for a look, but we won't be here on that day because we have the wedding, which is the whole reason that I'm up here getting the Mustang right now today. So, you know, let's keep going. All right, so we're out cruising the Mustang, rolled down the windows, perfect day. It was warming up, so I nearly actually put on the aircon, which reminds me of the next thing. The next thing is accessories. Now, I put an aftermarket aircon in this car, and it is a late model thing. It's all black. It almost disappears with the floor down there, but I did cop a bit of flack, people saying it was ugly, and I should have put a factory aircon unit in this car. Now, I don't actually like the factory units. They cut into the console, and it's a little bit kind of like, it's not a bad looking thing, but I just think this is a better, more sort of discreet option. But it got me thinking of accessories. Now, back in the 50s, they had a swamp cooler that you could mount to your window here. It's like a big cylinder, like full futuristic Jetsons looking thing. And that's a cool looking piece. A lot of real classic sort of period aftermarket accessories did really look cool. But what doesn't look cool is when that guy just goes through the catalog and picks one of everything, and there's just too much shit hanging off the car. Over-accessorizing it will just kill it. So don't put too much junk on your Classic. Okay, so we've got to make one more quick stop where we actually have another couple cars tucked away. Some little hidden gems here. So in this shed, we have my little bag Datsun 1300. That's known worldwide as a Datsun 520. Now, as you can see, this is highly modified, and in my opinion, this is tastefully done. This is a tray-back car, which never looked awesome as a bagged car. So I ended up running the wheel cycle guards on this thing, and so they go up and down with the wheels. We've done the red, which is a pretty generic sort of hot roddy thing, I will admit. Metal flaked red wheels with white wall tires, but they are just the factory steel wheels. If you wanted to go a little bit more sedate, you could just go like a black rim or even a white rim. Now, we did do scallops on the roof, scallops, whatever you call them. They're metal flaked. Once again, this is very like custom hot rod inspired build. And of course a little bit of pinstriping on the patina and everything like that. So once again, my taste, but I think I've done it tastefully. I wanted to give it sort of that bit of 60s sort of hot rod look. And yeah, tried to sort of keep it all as period as possible. We even done some pinstriping in the upholstery. So I didn't want to go modernizing this thing. I wanted to really embrace the classic look on this car. And then next to us, we have my VG Valiant hardtop. This is a 1970, I think, maybe 71, I actually forget. Essentially, it's a Dodge Dart. So if you're an American, this would be like a 67 to a 69 Dart. We still use the squared off back end in all of our Valiant hardtops. And this one's called a Regal. It ran a 265 Hemi, which is 6-cylinder, 245 Hemi, sorry, and I've now converted it to a 4-speed 318 V8. And the reason I'm here looking at these cars is because I want to look at the front end. I was actually doing a big cleanup at home in the shed and sort of trying to catalog all my parts. and I found some valiant parts. I wanted to make sure that the parts that I found before I put them up for sale are no better than the ones that are on this car. And in fact, the front bumper I found is mint, and this one's got a big dent there. So it's not that bad, but the other one's better. So I'm not selling that. But that reminds me, if you guys want to stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to be going through what I've sorted so far, and we're going to find out a few bits and pieces that I've got for sale, and I've got them up on Marketplace. So if you're in the country and any of these parts may suit your current or upcoming project, you can give me a shout. So while we're here, let's talk about badges. Putting badges on your car is another one. I don't even know what number we're up to. I'm not keeping track, but we got 10 in total, and badges is another one. Those who put late model badges on their car because they've done an engine conversion, they want everyone to know that it's the late model motor, or decals for that matter. We'll call this decals and badges. Putting stickers on your car to let people know what's under the bonnet, or just tacky shit. Chevy badges on Holdens. Man, badges can kill a car. I don't mind a factory badge, but if you're going to go down the path of respraying your car, just get rid of them. Always looks a lot cleaner with no badges. Unless it's an iconic car. If you've got an iconic muscle car or something of significance, of course, run it. But otherwise, just get rid of it. Actually, you know what? Let's talk paint while we're at it. While we're on the topic of paint. Now, this one is a really hard one to explain, and I can't even think of a good example, so I'll do my best. But when you're doing a respray on a car, if you're lucky enough to be going down that path and getting your car to that high level, you're going to be painting it. Pick the right color. So many people, you hear of them going, oh, I'm going to use this new color and blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't suit the era or the model of the car they're building. Now, of course, that's not a hard and fast rule. It is hard to explain because there are a lot of really nice impact and metallic colors that came out back in the day. But for some reason, they just don't work on every make and model. And sometimes, in my opinion, when you... that fly mustn't have agreed with me because I nearly swallowed him. If you pick the wrong color, it just can kill it, I think. And it is, once again, really hard to explain. I'll do my best to try and find some examples. But yeah, when you run like a really late model metallic, sometimes metallic sort of gunmetal grays on the wrong model can really sort of kill it. See the Mustang, for example. That car is actually painted in a late model color, but it is very, very similar to one of the factory colors. So that is probably an example where it can work, because it definitely can, but there are definitely times where I've seen a car being painted the total wrong color and they've killed it. They've gone down the path of doing this beautiful restoration, but it's just not good. Actually, and you know what? While we're on the topic of colors, color-coded bumper bars. Now, I know chrome is expensive. If you're trying to restore a car and you need to re-chrome your bumpers and the cheaper option is to paint them, color-coded bars just look terrible. Of course, there were models where they came out factory color-coded. GTs, even my Javelin was come out. If you bought a big bad color, you got a color-coded bumper. But generally speaking, if you put a chrome bumper back on that car, it's always going to look better. So do anything you can to avoid color-coding your bumpers. Look at this guy. He is sick. That's a little sand monitor. We never see these. I'm just stopping, I don't even care. Check this dude out. How cool is he? I won't be able to catch him because he'll be way too quick for me, but that is freaking cool. Little Sandy. I wonder if I can get him. No way, he's way too quick. Finally guys, it is so easy to spot these lizards and wildlife out on the street. Out on these roads, we have so much wildlife. So many lizards I see flattened, and it is so fucking easy to see them. I swear I see stuff from like a mile away. Half the time it turns out to be a piece of bark on the ground, but just it's not hard to spot stuff. If you can't see it, your eyes need checking. You probably shouldn't be driving, or you're not paying attention. So just keep your eyes peeled, because those things, little lizards and stuff, man, so cool. So cool. Why would you want to flatten that? Pay attention, keep our wildlife safe. So cool. Okay, so now I actually feel like a bit of a Steve Irwin. I've just spotted a little beardy. You'll be surprised I've even seen this. This is mental. All right, what's this? Look at this little guy. I told you it's easy to see him. Look at him. He is so cool. Holy shit. So you'll spot a beardy. They look like nothing. They're a skinny little piece of bark with their head up in the air. They look like a little bit of bark. They always poke their head way up high and put their body down flat to try and get as much of the sun rays as you can. Shingleback lizards, they just look like a big turd on the ground. They're fucking huge. They're black. You'll never miss them. They're massive. These are the ones that are harder to see. But I just spotted him. All right, so if you can't see these lizards when you're out in these roads in the summertime, you're not looking hard enough. All right, keep our wildlife safe. Look how cool he is. He is sick. You know what's not sick? The flies. The flies are not sick, but he is cool. Hey, buddy, he didn't even try to run. You can usually catch the beardies. The monitors you won't get, and the sleepies, piece of piss. Little eastern bearded dragon. Maybe you should be my new co-pilot. Nah, I'll let him go. He's too cool. And if you don't want to catch him and you haven't got traffic around, just pull over and just shuffle him off the road. Go on, buddy. Go on. Go on. Sick. Okay, so I'm now back at home and in the shed, and we're going to talk about number, I can't remember, maybe 7 of why your classic car looks like shit. Now, tinted windows. This is controversial again. Here is Andrea's UC Tirana. Now this thing is 1977 or 78 or 9. Generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, personally, chrome bumper cars are a no-go when it comes to tinted windows. She wanted tint on this car, and I've got to say, I actually agree with it. With the blackouts around the door frames and the satin black bonnet, the tinted windows with the color combo, it actually works. But generally speaking, I would not like that. For example, right below, we've got a 74 HJ Holden, no tint, and I feel like this is the way to go. The Mustang we've been driving today, no tint, beautiful white interior. You want that contrast to be seen from the outside. You don't want to hide that interior. Now, this thing, obviously a patina car, no blackouts. Maybe that has something to do with it. I can't even pinpoint why some things look good tinted and some don't. But generally a rule of thumb is chrome bumper is a no. Now, over there looking very sad is my LTD. That is 1980s onwards, generally is about my cutoff. So those sort of era cars, I don't mind with tint. And obviously newer looks great with tint. Can someone in the comments explain to me more so why tint works and doesn't work? I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that's agreeing with what I'm trying to say here. And I'm sure there's people that disagree. People just want tint. But I would rather no tint and a nice Venetian in that back window. There's also another exclusion. We've got the Doom sled here. This is basically a sort of a 60s inspired LED sled. Now, back in the day, it was another thing to do colored tints. You see it a lot on gasser cars, full customs, hot rods, where they had like bright blue or red or yellow tint. That's pretty cool, but obviously we're talking super traditional custom stuff. And you do that on something new school, it might look a bit fruity. All right, so we're getting close to the end now, and one of the things I want to talk about is, while we're talking customs, now I know this one's very unfinished, it's looking very sad, but when it comes to doing custom work, using the wrong parts from different cars that just do not work. Now, custom things were obviously hugely popular in the 50s and 60s and throughout. It was really common, more so than it is nowadays, to graft different panels onto a car and chop and change. So you could put Cadillac fins on a bloody Chevy or whatever. Now, a lot of the time that looked unbelievable, and a lot of the time it looked a little bit fruitcake. Now, I'll give you a good example. These front headlight bezels, they're called Frenched headlights. Now, they actually, this car is meant to stop right there, and then that front section here is actually meant to be chromed. You can see that properly. This is actually from a 49 to 51 Mercury. So that's a reproduction piece actually from Speedway Motors, but I've welded that's been welded in and then grafted in with filler and all smoothed out to give, that's called a Frenched headlight. That to me is what's called a very tasteful modification. In the back here, oh geez, this is looking embarrassing. In the back here, I've actually also grafted in a 49 to 51 Chevy rear window, so which it's around here, can't quite see. I done that to make this roof line work. When we done the roof chop, we've taken 4 inches out of this roof, and there's 4 inches out of the front, 7 inches out of the rear. I've two-doored it, and to make it all work, the original glass did not work. The window come right around, it was just the wrong shape. So to make this work, I ended up using a 50s Chevy rear glass. That is another example, in my opinion, on what makes a conversion of grafting another car into a different car work. But sometimes you will see weird shit, like different taillights of like maybe a 70s Statesman grafted into something like this, and it is not good. I'll have to bring up some examples of bad grafting, and this is a very rare scenario. It's not something you'd see very often, but when you do see it, it's a little bit cringeworthy. All right, here it is, the last thing on the list of reasons why classic cars look like shit, and it is aftermarket headlights. Now, headlights back in the day were generally 7 and 5 inch round. They had the odd square one here and there, but basically round 7s and 5s, done the lot. Now, over the years, people have brought out different headlights with futuristic looking things, and they just look absolutely junk. This is another reason what led me to do this video in general, is because I finally found some headlights which I cannot wait to get in this Mustang. They're going to give me late model performance with the old school look. So right here we have from Retro Glow a pair of brand new headlights to suit classic cars with a H4 insert, and I cannot wait to get these in the car. So the plan is to get these installed, and then later tonight we'll go for a bit of a spin and see how much better they perform versus a set of old school sealed beams. Now, the sealed beams look great. They have the classic look. That's just the way they've always looked. When you start getting these late model ones that might perform well, they don't look good. They just do not look good. I haven't seen nearly any that look anywhere near as good as just factory. And I would almost rather just have shit headlights, to be honest with you. But with so much traveling we do out in the Riverland, up here in the Adelaide Hills, we have so much wildlife. We have so many kangaroos. That strip that we done on the way here in the Mustang today, a bunch of wombats. It is actually pretty brutal. That's why I done this trip today in the daylight, because I didn't want to risk it at night. But with these new headlights, we're going to see everything, and I can't wait to get them in. But that's not going to happen until it's a little bit darker. But while we wait for it to get dark, let's quickly jump into the container where I've got a bunch of parts that I've been sorting out and have a look at some stuff that's for sale. All right, guys, so we're in the container now. It's pretty toasty in here. It's not full. I've got a lot of room, which is awesome, because I'm currently finally emptying out the shed that we are working in and storing in and building cars in, and it's been hard to get shit done because I'm just sort of working amongst my own junk. So I'm trying to get all organized. So over here we've got bigger racking where I can put my engines and bulkier shit like that, and then over here we've got smaller racking for my parts. And a lot of this stuff I'm actually advertising and or gonna advertise. So down the end here, I've got a bunch of Javelin stuff. So this is for the Javelin engine build that I'm doing, so none of that's gonna go. Down here, I actually have, maybe I won't try and dig it out, but back there I've got a random Cleveland camshaft, like a tow camshaft that's been reground brand new. I don't have a cam sheet on that, so I'm not sure if that's any good to anyone, but it's a bit tricky. I've got some old camshafts in there. There's a little bit of Chrysler stuff. Leads. One thing I do have down here, once again, I'm not going to dig it out, it's too far down. I have a factory Bosch big block electronic distributor. So any big block Chrysler big block that came out with an electric dizzy is in there, and I'll sell that. I don't know what I want for it, but if you need a big block factory Bosch style, I think it's Bosch, maybe Lucas, I have one of those. That's Mustang stuff. I've got a bunch of Holley 600s. They're like your 1850 style carbies, pretty basic, that you pretty much put on any V8 ever, basic. They all need rebuild. I need a couple of those, but if you're in the market for just a base core one that you need to rebuild, I've got a few of those. Got some XC stuff there I don't sell. I have air cleaners. So I've got factory V8 Falcon air cleaners, which would have come on like a Cleveland. I've got a factory one there, which I won't need. So as you can see, like a metal, haven't got a snorkel, but I've got a metal with a metal top. And also I've got a fiberglass shaker. So obviously you can buy these brand new nowadays, and you can buy them in aluminium and steel, which are obviously way better than the old fiberglass one. But if you're on a budget and you just want to get the job done, I've got a fiberglass shaker there, which I won't be using. I also have, this is Jake's, I've got a, I'll put photos in the description here. I've also got a HJ through to X or Z, whatever, console, pretty scrappy, but once again, it might get someone out of trouble. And I have an XABC console up here. It does need a slight repair and it needs a lid. That's also up for grabs. Moving in here, we've got some 411 gears for a Borg Warner. 411s. So I don't know if I'm gonna, a little bit scrappy. Maybe I'll keep them. We have lowering blocks. This is a air conditioning pulley for like a Cleveland. I don't think I need that. I have a Power Bond harmonic balancer for a crossflow, like a 250 crossflow or 200, 221, whatever, 220, whatever they are. That's up for grabs. I have a Redline Talker intake manifold, so that's to put like a Holley 350 on a cast iron headed 6-cylinder crossflow Falcon. I have a pair of triple clamps for a Harley Davidson Sportster. I have a power steering pump and box for early Falcon, like XR, I think, through to XC, I believe. So yeah, that's the whole sort of unit there. And it might be missing one singular bracket, but overall, most of it's there. That's up for grabs. Got a XDE base model dash, not worth much, but maybe someone needs it. I have an XF left-hand tail light. I have two brand new Repo XE tail lights. And there may be a couple of other little bits and pieces. And if there is, I'll put them in the video just here-ish sort of thing. So yeah, not a massive amount, but a little bit, and maybe it's going to help someone get their car back on the road. That's all we're trying to do here. So anyway, when it gets a bit darker, we'll go check out these headlights. Okay, so I'm going to throw these retro glow headlights in, and it's getting pretty late in the day, so we won't have to wait too long to go test them out. Nice, comes with a sticker, we all like that. Bit of info, all packaged. Nice little headlight. Now, they've got this retro glow into the glass there, and as you can see, they've tried to replicate the factory look as much as possible. The whole idea of this is to retain the factory look. But as you can see on the rear, it's a globe that will pop in and interchangeable. So I'm not going to pull that apart because you don't need to see it. But anyway, let's get this swapped over. Test these puppies out. Nice. All right, so there we are. What, not much more than about 5 minutes. And we're all swapped over, and have a look at that. That thing looks as standard as anything. You'd never know. So I'm gonna quickly get this other side sorted and we'll go test it out. All right, so we're just down at the end of my street, and so far you can see, well, hopefully you can see in the filming that this is like a super bright white light. So bright white light. Usually the old school headlights do tend to give off a bit of a yellow tinge, and these are pretty bloody ultra white. So that's just low beam, and high beam, straight away you can see those trees across the paddock there light up. So one thing I haven't considered, we can see how much that light is just going across the paddock into that tree. One thing I have noticed is that when you flick between low and high beam, you don't lose your low beam, which is awesome, because you know often sometimes you have to pick between the two, whereas when I change to high, the low beam is still just as prominent. You flick back to low, it's yeah, still super bright. Now, one thing I didn't consider is that I have no idea how well or poorly adjusted these headlights actually are. I got a feeling they are a bit shit, because when I actually flick it, one of the high beams sort of tends to be a little bit weird. But I think that is, well, I'm pretty certain that is going to be all in the adjustment of my headlights. But so far, they look as stark white as, you know, my later model, you know, Ford Territory, which is the newest car that I own, in order to give you a comparison. All right, so back to my drive, and I just thought I'd give you a quick look around the front of the car with the headlights on. Now, this is probably not going to help too much on the film, but they are stark white. I think I might actually pull out the Kingswood now, which have the original old school sealed beams, park that up next door and turn the headlights on and see the difference there. And then we'll take that for a spin and see how much worse they are. All right, so we pulled the Kingswood out, and straight away you can see the stark difference. These are a super ultra white light, and then the Kingswood is like a candlelight in comparison. So don't get me wrong, they're not the end of the world, but this is just a whole new thing. This is way different. You can see right here just how vastly different that is. So anyway, let's take the Kingswood for a spin and see if we can do a bit of a comparison. All right, so we're now in the Kingswood, a bit of a dirty windscreen, but you can bear with me. Now, I'm hoping we can do a bit of a before and after, or side by side or something, with these two bits of film to show you and to show me how good these other lights are. Now, one other thing I didn't actually realize when I just done the side by side just then with the Mustang and the Kingswood, that I actually had the Kingswood with the high beam on, and I didn't even realize. So that's crazy. There's the high beam. It's actually not that bad really, but it is a very different light. It is it seems to spread quite well, but it's just not bright, if that makes sense. Like, it's a very dim sort of light. So I actually think these headlights are adjusted a hell of a lot better than that Mustang. So I definitely would like to sort that out and then readdress it. But there's the low beam. You sort of can see how different the low beam is. Once you click to the high, it does change the whole look, whereas the new retro glows were a lot more uniform, which I like. So yeah, there it is. Okay, so we're back from the test drive, and it seems these retro glows are doing the job perfectly. Now, the thing I love about these things is that essentially the guys over at Retro Glow who have designed this Australian brand have basically found a problem like I'm explaining right now with classic cars, but instead of just making a video and complaining about it like I have, they've actually gone ahead and made a product to overcome an issue. So rather than putting late model headlights in a classic car to try and get that late model performance, they've designed an old school headlight for an old school car. So props to those guys. Check out Retro Glow if you want some headlights for your car. And now I've got the Mustang on the hoist. We've got a little bit more to do. You'll see that and more on an upcoming episode of The Iron Empire. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.